All right, so this is gonna be kind of an interesting one. It's kind of like retro meets new. This is not a complete build, although the title already told you what this is. This is actually a old case that Falcon bought back, like the owner of Falcon Northwest, bought back for a build that he did in Jack Black back in 2005. I think it was 2005. This is over 20 years old. So it has gone around and around and around, and it randomly popped up. I think it was on eBay or something like that. And the owner of Falcon Northwest was like, I have to have that back. And then they went, and then I have to send it to Jay to do something with. So we're gonna take a look at it today. I have some mods kind of I wanna do. I sort of don't want to mod this, but I'm gonna kind of have to, because let's just say, if I do this as a sleeper build or like modern hardware in an old case, this does not have adequate it does not have adequate airflow for any modern hardware. So I want to see, first of all, with the conditions in, it's probably going to be a bit patinaed. It was an automotive paint finish. Falcon was one of the first companies back in the day to do automotive grade paint finishing, like literally in like a spray booth, the same types of paints you would use on a car. So I want to see what it looks like, and then let's see what we've gotten ourselves into. Okay, so man, first of all, I remember this case from back in the day. Falcon used to also modify these cases back then when the first AIOs came out. I think it was Intel that actually created the first AIOs, but there's gonna be some patina, there's gonna be some paint chips, there's gonna be some scratches, and I was basically told like, hey, go ahead and try and restore the paint if you want, but you know what? I don't wanna do that. I think the patina and the fact that this case has landed in who knows how many people's homes for all this time and has not ended up in a landfill is kind of part of the story. So I just love the fact that it is a survivor at this point. So the theme on this was Tenacious D, and this PC was built like 2 years after School of Rock came out, and Tenacious D was already a thing. So it's crazy to think that this PC case in this theme is almost as old as Jack Black's career. But I didn't even know, honestly, that he was a gamer. I guess during COVID even, he had like a gaming channel, has like 5 million subscribers. He doesn't do anything on it anymore, but he also has a more recent Falcon, I think it was from early 2020s, Falcon PC that was built for his videographer. That one's got like, as you can see on screen right here, it's got some pretty generalized Jack Black type of stuff going on with it, not a Tenacious D. But this was obviously a themed painted build to pay homage to his band. Well, it's a two-man band, but still it's a band. So, holy moly.
Jeez.
Yeah, you talk about automotive grade. There's even flake in there.
I thought it was glass at first. That's
I know,
shiny it was.
but they didn't do glass back then.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tear into this thing. I'm gonna put some pieces in there right now. I do have one mod I kinda wanna do, and I'll show you guys in a second. I do have to consider the airflow. That's the cool thing about the old stuff. They were aluminum, or aluminum, wherever you're from. But look at that. Even the edges on the paint job is pretty sick, but this is aluminum, and that was one of the things that just absolutely set Silverstone back in the day apart, was the lightweight aluminum construction. And I'm gonna say aluminum every time, because that's how we say it here. Okay, we got a splitter on there. Here's our front panel connectors. I got little twisted pairs. Graphics card length, it's gonna be a concern. Cool thing is though, that's all just riveted together, and I can literally just cut it shorter if I need to. But we are missing some drive bay covers. Boop. I considered trying to use this area here maybe to put a fan or something to bring in more airflow. But what I think I'm gonna do is something I have used in the past and have had good luck with, is these shrouds. And I had like thought about putting it on the top, but I really don't want to cut into that paint. And plus there's a power supply right here, right? So I could put another 80 mil at the top to help with some exhaust. We have an 80 mil that goes right here. As you can see, here's the Noctua on there. Two 80 mils in the front, and then we can have 80 mil on the top. But my thought on this was actually going to be bottom intakes. And then we might need to 3D print some spacers for the feet on the bottom. These just screw on right in the center. So if we were to 3D print some spacers, we can just get longer screws and then we can space the feet out so we have more of a gap underneath to let those fans in. Falcon did say, mod it. I don't care, mod the case, but I really don't want to cut into this paint. Okay, so let me just put a motherboard on here for right now. This is a random E650 board, never even open. I'll grab a different board, one that's open. Slides right in there. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Plenty of clearance for bottom 120 millimeter intakes. Gosh, so, you know, I don't think I'm even gonna need this. Let me tell you why. I'm just gonna use the grills. I'll just use the grills top and bottom. This will be used for a different, I've done videos about this where you can take a case that doesn't have enough like fan exhaust or fan intakes and just utilize these with a nice brushed trim. They're like 20 bucks on Amazon, something like that. But these are black. I'll probably use silver because I have plenty of silver ones. Yeah, I think all I'm gonna do is I'll use that to measure my hole size and then I'll just, oh, actually I have to be careful for that though, right there. All right, so I've got this box of 5 80 millimeter Arctic fans, which are just, they're so tiny, but these things still move a good amount of air. They really do. So you imagine 2 of those in the front, 2 120s in the bottom. Technically, if I needed, I could go even intake on the back. Don't think it's gonna be necessary though, honestly. The top is a 92 though. I thought it was an 80. So that means I can order a 92 millimeter Noctua or Arctic on the top to just help with some exhaust. But I think if we're just pushing a ton of air in, it might be better to just leave this open. That way it can just blow out at the pressure that we need rather than having it either be accelerated or potentially restricted by the fan on the top not being able to move as much air as is trying to move through there. That's the problem a lot of people have, is they'll look at this and be like, oh, I should put a fan there. But if the fan can't physically move as much air as the positive pressure is trying to push out there, then the fan becomes a restriction. So it would actually be better to leave it open and just let positive pressure do the thing than to have the fan be actively moving less amount of air, if that makes sense. Okay, let's get the bottom taped up. Let's get it marked up. And let's see how the hell I'm gonna cut a round hole. Initially, I was just gonna cut a rectangle, which I guess technically I still could, huh? I could, and then that would just be sitting down there. Makes me wish it was a silver one. Okay, I just want to point out that this is just incredibly lucky that it fit perfectly butted up against that track and butted up against the front cage. Because when I marked it, oh yeah, and that's the ugly side. Obviously we're gonna be sandwiching another plate there. When I marked it, I just made sure I was clear of the rivets because I was like, oh yeah, if I'm clear of the rivets, I'll be clear of that cage, but I didn't account for overhang, right? Because that rivet is not the end of the extremity of where that overhang. That overhang is like another 10 millimeters. So I just got extremely lucky that that worked. I'm just saying. But yeah, I ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow morning. The other half will just sandwich together. And you can see the first cut was the wee-hoo, and then the rest were got the hang of the grinder really wanting to yank it out of my hand. So, okay, but that's okay. This is the side we care about right here. So now let me put a couple fans on there. Actually, I guess the first thing I can do is just be like, because now I need to make sure that they don't interfere here. Oh my gosh, that's so close. Man, I am just getting so lucky right now in ways that just don't seem fair. So I think I'm gonna use these fans actually because the hell, okay, they're Silverstone. They're also very high pressure fans. So because it's gonna be pulling up from the bottom of the case, which is always gonna be a little bit harder of a job for the fan, I think I'm gonna use those. Part of me feels like I could just leave it this way. It's not terrible. very much how like, what I would have done back in the day is I would have straightened this out. Like I've done this mod plenty of times on old cases. I would straighten this out and then I would get like a U-channel around there and then I would just put a grill on it and call it a day. That would have been it. But I kind of want to make it a little nicer. I mean, I'm not doing this in my garage at 16 years old, so these are not long enough. So the downside is that's a thick plate. So, and these are not long enough. Okay, so the bottom fans are in. Today's video is gonna be mostly about modding of the stuff before we get to the final build. I'm not gonna do water cooling in this, not even an AIO, to be honest. Yeah, they're definitely choked. They're choked off for sure. Like ton of airflow, choked off for sure. Yeah, definitely need the taller feet. Let me space these up because I need to make sure I get the spacer height enough. Let me space these up and make sure that they're gonna be good at 10 millimeters. I was having Nick print them at 10 millimeters, but I think I might need a little more, honestly. So I'm actually stealing these off of my daughter's old Corsair case. And this would save me from having to 3D print anything, I guess. One could argue, Leia, but you're taking off the original feet. But yeah, we lost originality once my grinder hit it. I don't know if I'm gonna actually use these fans, to know the truth, now that I think about it, because they're very noisy fans. They came on the Threadripper cooler for Silverstone. So I might have to switch them to something else, but I can still get an idea now of the airflow. It's so much better already. Still not as good as if it was unobstructed. I mean, you can hear the restriction, listen. Let me see what other fans I have real quick. God, I'm never gonna get past the fan stage. So I'm actually gonna go with these Gamdias Notice fans, the M1s. We like the square look of them. It's definitely gonna be a lot quieter. It's definitely a bit more airflow optimized fan blade. And I really like that the threading goes all the way to the end. So, honestly. So that might allow me to be able to truly get two black ones where they go, or potentially even these guys on the bottom like I wanted. And then I don't have to worry about putting the other shroud on the bottom, because like we already talked about, the fan screw length is a problem. So let's just test this out right. And they're fully rubber isolated, so that'll help. Let's see what's gonna happen here. Oh yeah, see the bite is like right there, so it's perfect. Now I can use, I'm never ready, I'm never prepared. I'm an Eagle Scout, you know that? The Boy Scout motto is be prepared. And I'm never prepared. So I am the worst Eagle Scout ever.
Were you prepared when you were an Eagle Scout?
I was a very prepared teenager. I was actually very prepared prior to YouTube even. The audience changed me. I'm not gonna lie, I like the way this looks better already. It's pretty cool. All right, let's do a sound test again. Should be a lot less turbulent-y sounding. That's a lot better. And it's still ramping up. Still a very good amount of airflow. See how I lift it up and the sound doesn't change? Listen. So that tells me these fans at this height are not being obstructed. So, and there's a lot of airflow coming through, like a lot. So that's a really jarring difference of sweater. It's actually the next day. The stuff I ordered came. We're gonna try this out and make this work on here to make it pretty, but everything you're gonna see after this is gonna be yesterday. Because this is just aesthetic now. Because as you can see, it's build. But the last shot, it wasn't build. But you'll see that happen after. If you can have the multiverse, we can have the J-verse, okay? All right, so I'm gonna take all this apart, because I just had this on there in the meantime. Part of me was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just leave the ugly bottom, but no, I can't do that. The front panel connectors were also a point of contention because they were too long, they hit the fan, so I had to like modify them, but now they don't sit in there as sturdy as I would like. It's okay, this is just sort of what happens when you start modding stuff. And then of course I have this all zip tied down again, so I'm gonna undo my zip tie. I feel like every J video now should include a random fact by Jay. So you ready for this? I'll give you guys your random fact of the day. You ever wondered why when you're a kid, time seems to go by so slowly, but then the older you get, time speeds up? It's a pretty interesting time dilation thing that happens in your head. I actually heard this from a psychologist. Not my psychologist. I'm not saying I don't have a psychologist, but it's not my psychologist that said this. No one should be surprised that I have a psychologist. Anyway, it's your own internal time dilation. So 1 year in duration for a kid that's 10 years old feels like an eternity because it's 10% of their life. But I'm 44. 1 year is 1/44th of my life. So relative time dilation says 1 year goes by very quickly in the grand scheme of my existence and my whole perception of time. So that's why a really fun experiment is if you have kids that are different ages, say you have like a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and then like a, I don't know, maybe like a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old. Take a stopwatch and ask all of them, when you think 2 minutes is up, raise your hand. Everyone's hands will go up at different times. And what's funny is the kids will put their hand up the slowest. Like they'll be like forever, like, oh, this is taking forever. But the older person will put their hand up sooner. It'll actually go from older to smaller, typically, if the experiment's done correctly. Or if you do it independently, so they're not influencing each other. So one person's hand goes up and everyone's like, oh, I guess it's been, so you have to do it independently. But it's a fun little experiment. Completely useless information. I hear people go, every year seems to go by faster. Well, yeah, perceptively it is going by faster. So there was your fun fact of the day. Yay! I didn't show you what I got. That's gonna be really neat for this. The way I plan on getting these to connect is I have to open up these holes. I actually have to enlarge them so that these will fit through. These are pretty neat. These are actually just magnetic, because you can this is aluminum obviously, but you can magnetize this to anything. And then you can basically mount a fan anywhere you want. But what you can also do is I can use these as a sandwich. They come with these screws, but they're gonna be too short, I believe. So I've got these longer screws I use for radiators. And then essentially what I can do is use that to sandwich the whole thing together. It's just basically a really pretty nut and bolt. But as you can see, the magnet stayed stuck to the blade because it's really, really strong. All right, we'll come back with how this sort of turned out. Reaming of the holes. Reaming. Admit it, this is the content you guys signed up for, not CES crap. So that's what it looked like before. And that's what it's gonna look like now. Professional! No, let's not pretend. Nothing professional about me. And I think that's why people keep coming back. So from this perspective, it really looks no different. But you can see, I ended up using the nut certs, we'll call them, for lack of a better term, on the inside. One, because I think they're prettier than seeing the pan head. And then two, it allowed me to screw in from the bottom. Because I was trying to do it with the screwdriver inside. I'm like, wait a minute, just flip it. So from this perspective, it looks pretty much the same. But I talked about leaving it janky on the bottom, and I'm glad I didn't now, because look how much better that looks on the bottom now. So the frame is $17.99 on Amazon. It's by AC Infinity, and it's just called Ventilation Grill for PC. 2 120mm fans. That's all you have to look up on Amazon. So I got 2 of those, so now we're 35 bucks in on the grill. And then the screw thingies, these are by a company called Averzella, and they're M3 magnetic screw set, suitable for fixing 25mm thickness cooling fan on surface of various electronic products. That's the name of the product. And they come in packs of 10, which is hilarious because if they're for fans, you should need 8. So maybe you just, in case you lose 2, but that's them right there. We'll try and put the links down below. They're pretty neat though, because the way they're showing it is like you could just mount it through the fan and then magnetic it to a grill. And then the silver grill, I just look up 120 fan grill. I got silver and black. I had to use this grill that came with the vent because the hole for the loop right here was not big enough to allow the insert to pass through. So I just opened up the holes and then ended up having to use a washer because the hole to let the nutsert fit through is too big, right? So the head on the screw wasn't big enough. It would just fall through the holes. I just had to put a washer on there. It's one reason why I flipped it. You wouldn't see these ugly washers there. So now you just have a nice, clean looking interior like that. I do wish they made them in bare aluminum because that would have looked matchy, but they don't. They only come in black, but whatever. And then the bottom is definitely a lot more presentable. So anyway, now we can get back to yesterday. If you hear like a weird beeping sound, there's an alarm going off in the electrical room next to us. Anyway, I'm just gonna do a quick spritz on the front panel or the front grille. I know I said I was gonna leave the patina. There's no reason to leave that, honestly. So just and this is actually the SEM trim paint. There. That'll dry in no time. The SEM dries so fast. All right, so we have to move on to the next part, which is components. We have to make sure they're all gonna fit. I'm not putting anything crazy in here. Like I said, I still think we're gonna have some cooling factors. I just took care of a bit of those cooling factors, but still doesn't have the greatest of airflow. This is just a Z790 UD gigabyte board. And then I put a 13700K in there. Again, I don't think this build's ever gonna actually be used. So the next thing I have to figure out is our cooler height gonna clear? Because we have the extra height of this slide out board or tray, and chassis back then were not very, you know, they were pretty narrow. So why is this coming off the top? Okay, whatever, I don't know. So I need to find all the hardware and get this mounted up. But we're getting there. I have to figure out what GPU is gonna go in here too. All right, so I'm just doing the single tower Chromax here. This is the U12S because again, I think it's gonna clear. I kind of did the eyeball method. Like I said, this build is gonna be about how lucky can Jay get till it runs out. But if it won't clear, then I'm not sure what my other options are gonna be because I don't have any downfire coolers. I don't know. That may not even slide through there. It's higher than that. So it's not gonna be able to slide in. I now can't utilize the tray slide, which was handy for the bottom work, but I guess. Okay, I need to screw this down because every millimeter counts in this one. That's what it is. Yes! Oh my God. Okay, it's just mere millimeters from hitting the side panel. My God. Well, next is GPU, and we already stuck a Founders in here just to see, and it does clear. So I know as long as I don't go too crazy or buck wild with the GPU, that we'll have no problems. I think I'm actually gonna, we were talking about this off camera, this is gonna be the reverse meta build. We're doing Intel CPU and AMD GPU. Because why the hell not, right? So that's gonna be fun, just because. Yep, 2 more screws to put in here. And then I'll pick my power supply, and this will actually be pretty close to done. It's just about getting this thing up and running again, you know? And you gotta admit, you would open a case like this up and not expect to see something like this, but I love, the theme is coming together nicely though. So I'm actually gonna throw a 7900 XT in here. I think aesthetically it fits nicely. Size-wise, it obviously fits nicely. It's gonna get plenty of cooling directly from our upfire fans there, if you will. Let me get this in there. It's not gonna sag. That's gonna look sick, actually. Sorry, Kel, I wanna keep it now. Okay, I just installed a 1 terabyte P5 Plus under there because I have a crap ton of them. I guess eventually we won't be able to get them anymore. But anyway, drive is in. Let's put in our GPU. Okay, that sucker's in there. I guess really all that's kind of left is power supply and wiring that up. That's gonna be, man, a 13.7 with a 7900 XT. That is no slouch of a PC. Let me figure out RAM and power supply, and then we might be able to get this thing turned on. Keeping with our, why does it feel painful to be slotting this RAM in there right now? Even though it's just basic Crucial 5 DDR, or Crucial DDR5 Pro, like the first Pro that came out with 5600 mega transfer, just 32 gigs though. Yeah, but it kind of keeps with the blacked out sort of theme, huh? All right, and then keeping with the anti-meta, I'm actually running an 850 watt NZXT power supply. There's like 3 reasons why. 1, it's kind of the smallest power supply I got. I think putting a 12 or 1300 watt or even a 1500 watt in this would be a bit ridiculous. 2, it's fully modular, of course. And 3, it doesn't have PCI Express 5, which is perfect because I'm just gonna run a single pigtail to this graphics card. This card cannot pull enough power to hurt this with a pigtail. It's funny how for years, pigtails were the point of discussion of whether or not they were okay or weren't okay. But then now everyone thinks if you run a pigtail, you're gonna melt your stuff down. But that's not true. And for this build, it's perfectly fine. I also am only gonna run 1 PCI or CPU header because I'm trying to keep this as clean as possible because of the fact that there's no hiding cables in this. This is a lot easier to make look pretty in here because it's all sleeved, at least got a harness. It's not all ketchup and mustard, which would have been the true homage to have ketchup and mustard in there. But I need to move these ports just to make sure everything is like kind of in the right spot. Now, one thing I forgot, which is kind of nice, is the power supply also is going to contribute to exhausting hot air because of the fact that it has to pick up air from inside the chassis. This place is a mess. But look at this. This looks so good. Even the wiring, I think, looks pretty good. Like, I have to buff the top because of the tape marks and stuff. I mean, I ended up not even needing the SATA power because the fan hub I'm using is just a fan splitter. So that's all the wiring there. Now I had to cut and modify the front panel connectors. I had to shorten them, make them like half the length. Now because of doing that, it kind of crimped them shut, which means now they're just sort of like precariously placed on their pins. But it's just a momentary switch for turning on and off the PC. It's no different than like when you take a screwdriver and tap the power pins together. It works. So I'll demonstrate that right now. We'll make sure it posts and everything in a second. But I actually ended up getting it all together today, which surprised me because I thought it was gonna be more work involved. But there's that and that. Oh, my fans are turning, dude, there's plenty of airflow. Oh my gosh. Dare I say the front 80s feel like they're moving as much, if not more air than the bottom 120s because they're not choked off. Wait a minute, see if it does it again. What?
Yeah, it's on. Now it's off.
What? Hold on. This one's brand new, never used.
Still on.
Okay, bad cable. Wow, that's a first.
Yeah.
I've literally never had one of these go bad on me. It's not even like we were bending it. Maybe the crimps inside are just getting weak. But you know what? When weird things like that start happening, you just get rid of them. More importantly, we need to take it over there and see if we get a post. That's more important. There should not be any reason I have to do a BIOS flash or anything on this because the motherboard is much newer than the CPU, and Z790 supports 13th gen. But it's funny because like right now, it doesn't look any different than when we started this video because you can't see inside of it. It's so quiet too. And there's positive pressure coming out the top.
Nice.
Hey, okay, I don't know why I expected it not to give me an image. Let me get the smoke machine. You gotta see this. Like, it's crazy how good the airflow of those little 80 mils are. Look at the top. So here's air going to the, look at that, dude. Look at these 80 mils. Look how much effect they have on the air in front of it. That is nuts. So I think we have plenty of airflow, which was my biggest concern with this case. All right, time to clean this mess up. This was a fun one. So we don't have any connection with Jack. I say that like we're on a first name basis. With Mr. Black. Falcon does kind of, sort of, because they worked with him in the past with, like I said, that Talon build where that was for his videographer. So if he's interested in this, we are offering this to him, both Falcon Northwest and myself as the collaborator for, you know, putting some modern parts in this and just simple mod on the bottom of the case, nothing crazy. I refused to do any mods on the top because of the paint. I really did. So if Mr. Black would like this PC, it is his. I just have no way of getting a hold of you. So I believe you know someone that has a way of getting a hold of Falcon. So if that's the case, then so be it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed kicking off 26 with a interesting retro sleeper build that this literally sat on the desk of Jack Black at some point. So this is pretty neat to know that it came through here before it goes off to wherever it's going next. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.